Hi, my name is Lotus Davidson, and I'm doing a research project for my organizational behavior class at my university. For this project, I chose to analyze The Hateful Eight by Quentin Tarantino and do one of those iceberg analysis videos. So please enjoy and subscribe. So let's dive in. What is The Hateful Eight about? The setting of the movie takes place post-Civil War in Wyoming during a blizzard. 8 strangers are trapped in a stagecoach stopover where suspicion and tension rise as they're forced together. Throughout the movie, loyalties are tested and hidden agendas emerge. Violence and betrayal escalate as secrets are revealed. So, how does this relate to organizational behavior? The Hateful Eight offers a dark, exaggerated look at how group dynamics can go wrong. It highlights what can happen when diversity isn't managed. Throughout the movie, it illustrates what can happen when there is miscommunication and how easily trust can be broken. And in the end, it shows how destructive prejudice and stereotyping can be. So now let's discuss our iceberg. At the tip of the iceberg, we'll discuss macro level diversity, aka surface level diversity, which refers to the broader demographic differences such as race, gender, and ethnicity, and how these differences impact organizational dynamics. Then, underneath the surface, we will discuss micro level diversity, also known as deep level diversity, which is individual differences that cannot be seen directly, including goals, values, personalities, decision making styles, and attitudes. Let's begin with macro level diversity. In terms of groups and teams, the group dynamic in the Hateful Eight is highly dysfunctional. Their group, if you can even call it a group, is characterized by mistrust and power struggles. The lack of effective leadership makes their problems worse. Throughout the movie, there is no trust, therefore there is no open communication. When there is communication, it's either deception or manipulation, which hinders communication. The 8 characters are very independent and have a lone wolf mentality, which causes the absence of a strong unifying leader, which in turn contributes to the chaos and conflict. The need for power leads to individual agendas. Power seems to be the central theme in the Hateful Eight. The characters constantly try to gain the upper hand, to have power and control over the other characters. And here's a clip that's a perfect example.
Chris Mannix, come over here on this side. Come on. Take this gun out of my holster. Point it at them. And like I said, anybody does anything, and I mean anything, you kill them.
The film is also driven by conflict, both interpersonal and ideological. The isolated setting only intensifies the conflict because the characters are forced to be together. The lack of clear structure and authority contributes to the breakdown of order, which causes violence to escalate. So now let's talk about micro-level diversity, aka underneath the surface. The characters have conflicting backgrounds and ideologies. The Hateful Eight highlights the challenges of working together in a diverse environment. But however, this impacts of diversity leads to mistrust and conflict. Now let's talk about the characters' attitudes and incidents. The characters each have their own prejudices and stereotypes, which influence the characters' interactions and decisions. Incidents include past experiences, which are the Civil War, and biases, which in this case, racism. Tension and suspicion create a hostile environment, which impacts communication and collaboration. And the isolated setting only intensifies these emotions in these characters. Each of the characters have different personalities, but one thing that they all have in common, since they're bounty hunters, is they all are greedy and are only trying to benefit themselves. Their unique personalities and moral compass drive their actions and conflicts. Their values clash throughout the movie, which leads to power struggles. Here's a scene that shows their gritty personality.
You black fella I know, Colonel something or other Warren, right?
Major Marcus Warren.
Why don't you explain to me what an African bounty hunter's doing wandering around in the snow in the middle of Wyoming?
Trying to get a couple of bounties in the Red Rock.
So you still in business?
You know I am.
You don't know nothing about this filly here?
Nope.
Don't even know her name?
Nope.
Well, I guess that makes this one fortuitous wagon.
I sure as hell hope so.
Major Marquis Warren, this here's Daisy Domergue.
Howdy, nigga.
Girl, don't you know the darkies don't like being called niggers no more? They find it offensive.
I'm a call worse.
Now that I can believe. You never heard of her, huh?
Shoulda?
Well, she ain't no John Wilkes Booth, but maybe you might heard tell about the price on her head.
How much?
$10,000. Why I ain't too anxious to be handing out rides, especially to professionals open for business.
I can certainly appreciate that, but I ain't got no designs on her. One of my fellows over there is worth 4,000, another one's worth 3, and one of them's worth 1. Damn sure good enough for me.
Well, let me see their paperwork. Like I said, molasses-like.
Each character's perspective shapes their actions and reactions. Misunderstandings and misinterpretations fuel the conflict. Lastly, the characters each have their own motive. Some of the motives include money, self-preservation, and revenge. These motivations lead to deception and violence in the end. So, in conclusion, throughout the whole movie, there is tension and dishonesty among the characters, and I think that this movie is an example of everything that could go wrong when diversity isn't managed. Even though almost everyone dies in the film in the end, the bounty hunter and the sheriff, who most definitely didn't like each other, they set their differences aside and come together to defeat Daisy Domergue and her game. It also shows how hatred, like prejudice and stereotyping, only leads to chaos and violence. In an organizational setting, prejudice and stereotyping can only lead to your demise and will ruin the group dynamic. And here are my sources. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. It was really hard to do, considering that this movie was 3 hours long. But anyway, I hope to see you guys next time. Please like and subscribe.